Welcome everyone to Rise Up Evolutionary Conversations. I'm so grateful to be here with my new friend, good heartfelt brother, Tommy Rosen, who's joining us. And while we are building a little bit of traffic, I want to tell you about what's going on at Rhythmia. We are open. We've been open since November, and transformation, amazing transformation is happening every week. It is a miracle as people awaken to the truth of their being. And I want to tell you a little bit about the safety that you can come to Costa Rica. It's easy to get in. You don't need to take a test to get in. You fill out a little form. You get some health insurance or traveler's insurance. That's it. And we pick you up at the airport. When you arrive at Rhythmia, we test everyone. We have a COVID test because we're a medically licensed facility. We have a microbiologist in the lab right there. You come in, you get tested. And so everyone who is come on property has been tested and is COVID free. We do temperature checks twice daily for guests, 3 times daily for employees. And then when you get back to the US, you have to have a PCR test to get back in. We do it right there on property. You don't have to leave. It's there for you when you get to the airport. And to date, since November, not one person has tested positive upon leaving Rhythmia. So come join us. Enough about that, because I have this brilliant, luminous being here with me, my brother Tommy Rosen, and he is an internationally renowned yoga teacher and addiction recovery expert who has spent the last 3 decades immersed in recovery and wellness. He holds advanced certifications in both Kundalini and Hatha yoga and has 29 years of continuous recovery from addiction. Tommy leads yoga retreats and workshops internationally. His classes are accessible to all. They're challenging in just the right ways and a whole lot of fun. And I can absolutely say an affirmative yes to that. He's the founder of Recovery 2.0 and works to support the needs of people in recovery globally. His first book, Recovery 2.0, Move Beyond Addiction and Upgrade Your Life from Hay House, was published to international acclaim and continues to transform the lives of readers across the world today. Tommy Rosen, welcome.
Thank you, JJ. I'm so tremendously honored and grateful to be here.
It is my honor, man. I have to tell you, I heard, this is the coolest part about my job, is I heard Tommy on a podcast and there was just an instant something that connected with me. Mm-hmm. And I started following you and then signed up for the Recovery 2.0 platform because I loved what you did so much. One of the biggest questions, Tommy, that I love to find out from people is your story of individuation, your story of germination. The biological definition of germination is the movement of any organism from smaller existence to greater being. Mm-hmm. So I know you've told your story a million times, but I'd love it if you could share your story with our audience and what was that awakening moment? What was that moment of realization that had you see something greater than you saw before?
Thank you so much for that question and for this invitation to explore this. There are, of course, many, 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 many moments like that.
Yes.
One could say every moment could be like that. If your orientation is towards seeing the world in that way, as an unfolding, a movement towards light, a movement away from dark, a movement away from addictive tendency toward tendencies based on being present and aware in the now. And so when you ask about the story or my story, it's always a question for me, where should I begin telling this story? At what point in the story shall I begin? So, right. I think for your audience, I could begin really at the very, 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 very beginning. And so there I am in my mother's womb. I am surrounded by amniotic fluid. I am subject to my mother's chemistry. I am subject to my mother's energy. I am subject to my mother's experience. I'm very, very much under the influence of my mother's perception of herself and the world around her. And it all really truly begins there as an imprint. The patterns are beginning. Obviously, this is precognitive. I don't have a recollection of this. What I can tell you from my friends and my family members, I was born into an insecure situation. I was born into an argument taking place between my parents, an argument that they couldn't solve, that they couldn't heal, that they didn't have the tools at that time to be able to move into a lighter, more compassionate, more loving space with themselves and with each other. Mm-hmm. That burden, that challenge that each human being faces, if it's unfinished business, very often will be passed on to the children.
Yes.
No question, that's the case here. Passed on chemically, passed on energetically, emotionally, developmentally, physically, spiritually. So I'm born into this world of infinite possibility with some interesting challenges and dynamics around me. And I recognize now at 53, at this moment in time right here, this particular now, that I've spent my life working to transcend those types of influences so that I could be truly free. Mm-hmm. Any of those influences getting in the way of me being me being authentic, me being empowered, me feeling empowered and beautiful and belonging and loved and lovable and loving, anything in the way of that is addiction. Mm-hmm. So we think about drugs, alcohol, food, sex, money, gambling, shopping, drama, emotional addiction. It really doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter at all what it is that it's just some behavior that we have adopted because we somehow got away from love. We somehow got away from self. We somehow moved away from authenticity and integrity. And in moving away from self, there's naturally a pain, a suffering that goes with that. It's intolerable. Mm-hmm. And so we begin to operate in a world where we're trying to fix that difficulty. And we can try to fix it by any means necessary. And we will find relief temporarily in many, many things. And nothing wrong with relief, as long as the relief is leading to a greater level of union, ultimately leading back to love, back to oneness, back to wholeness. I know the work you do at Rhythmia very connected to these ideas.
Yes.
So the healing for any of us is first to see, okay, I have to admit to myself, right? This is what we're going through a process together, all of us who are here together, right? So I have to admit to myself there are behaviors or even just patterns of thinking or patterns of belief that get in the way of my soul's and my heart's desire. My soul's desire. I'm here to serve my soul, although it doesn't always look like that. And it doesn't always play out that way.
Right.
But when we serve our soul, only amazing things result from that. The most extraordinary things. When we serve our heart, the most amazing things come from that. But somewhere along the way, as we've been talking about, we get a little off track from what the soul needs or desires, what the heart desires. Maybe we're trying to please someone else's idea of how we should be. Maybe we are pursuing something that is just simply not in our dharma. It's not in our duty, our path. And our job is to constantly course correct.
Yes.
So we're in a fact-finding mission as human beings. I'm still very much in a fact-finding mission about the unfolding of life as I experience it through the organism known as Tommy Rosen, recognized as that organism with all of his perceptions and beliefs and history and all the food I've ever eaten, all the people I've ever connected with, all the media I've ever watched, all the books I've ever read, all the things I've ever learned or been exposed to. I'm under the influence, just like I was under the influence of my mother's chemistry and my mother's reality when I was inside her womb. I'm still under the influence, and I work each day to get up above that influence.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's not, for me, it's not, oh, do you know, Tommy, the truth is I have not used drugs or alcohol for 29 years. And so that's a long time. That's a commitment, one day at a time commitment to not do that. People might be interested to know what would happen for a person that they would make a decision like that. Why would you decide to do that on a one day at a time basis? And why would you continue to decide to do that? This being, Tommy Rosen, must have decided that there was something valuable or correct for his particular approach, his dharma, his needs. And so, you know, that's exactly right. That for me.
I love I don't mean to interrupt you.
No,
it's so
please.
Beautiful.
Please.
This becoming, this process of this one day at a time process of choosing, of lifting ourselves above confusion. I've been contemplating the old Buddhist koan, we are all struggling to become that which we already are. Or something along those lines, right? We're all struggling to become more of that which we already are. And I've been thinking about that. And it seems very much what you're talking about. This beginning in the womb, in the embryonic fluid, the context that you were born into, we're all born into, the influences that are in our lives, all of this, how do we become more of what we are? It's not a process of adding anything. That is what I came to realize, and what I think your story illustrates. It's a process of removing anything that is unlike us. All those influences that we've taken on that seem to be us, but it's the content of what we are, but it's not the sea of consciousness that we truly are. You know, it's the stuff that's inside that isn't really it. And so, you know, I had this vision of and I shared this the other day, of an aquifer, right? And the process of water moving through the porous surface of the earth, through the gravel and the silt and the grains of sand, and becoming pure, right? The water is always water, but those pollutions and particulates and oils and stuff that it picked up on the journey are removed as we move through, as it moves through the density of the earth to become more of what it already was, which is the process of removal. And so what are the tools with which you move daily? Because I love what I've seen, and it's made such an impact in my life. The tools that you use daily for this removal process and for the process of lifting yourself above confusion.
Yes. Thank you so much. That's so well put. So perfectly put.
Thank you.
So yes, this process is subtractive. It's a refinement. It's a purification. That's really the word that we can go with. When people, let's say that you are, you know, people moving on to a path of, say, recovery from drug addiction, let's just say, or alcoholism, you know, as an example. And this may not apply to people in the audience, but we all know somebody. So if it's not you directly, you know someone who has struggled in these ways, or you've struggled in other ways.
But may I just add there, but it's really compulsive behavior in general.
Yes.
Right? So I think it applies to everyone. It might be a drug, or it might be a media, or it might be shopping, or it might be whatever it is that keeps me from being present to what's going on in my life.
Yes, exactly. So for the purposes of this analogy I'm about to make, we'll use drugs and alcohol.
Okay.
So let's just say you're intoxicated. And what I mean by that is the cells in your body have toxins that need to be processed out. So I'm talking on the physical level now. We can also speak energetically, emotionally, what it is to be toxic emotionally, to be in the addiction of shame, or the addiction of resentment, or the addiction of anger. Many of those painful emotional addictions. It's an intoxication. We have to find detoxification. We have to purify. How often do we have to do it? Every day.
Yes.
Why? Because we live in a toxic world, physically. Air pollution, water pollution, food pollution, emotional pollution of every kind, noise pollution, all the pollutions. We live in that world, and we must detoxify as a daily protocol in your life. If you took nothing else from this discussion than that, and you understood that it wasn't that, oh, every now and then I'll do my detox, I'll go away for a week to a place and I'll detox. No. If we've come to a point in our world and in our mind and in our collective, we have to do it every single day. The purification begins when even before your eyes are open in bed. You will often find yourself, as everyone does, in some form of anxiety or negativity, worry or concern. It's not a weakness. It's just a habituation, like the particles you spoke of in the oil that need to be refined out. So we wake up right away, we get up, and we do our practice. Now, our practice can be many, many different things, as long as it brings you toward a more truthful way of being. That phrase that I just used, a more truthful way of being, implies that negativity, that anxiety, that concern, and that worry is not actually based in truth.
Yes.
But it's actually based in mental habituation, emotional habituation. It has to be broken right away so that it doesn't dip below the surface and rule you from the throne of the subconscious mind.
Beautifully said.
So it has to be rooted out. And if you do that work in the morning, you will approach the day from a more easeful and lighter state of being. So we start with sadhana practice. Sadhana is just simply an Indian word, Sanskrit word that means spiritual practice. Anything that moves you closer to the truth, allows you to operate here in three-dimensional reality with greater skill, greater presence, more calmness. And so that's very good. We want to move in that direction. We start in the morning with our sadhana practice. If you don't have a sadhana practice, there are so many ways to, first of all, you could certainly join Recovery 2.0 and you'll be inundated with practices and things that you can do in the morning. But you don't have to join anything. You can begin yourself. I'll give you an opportunity, an invitation to just start breathing consciously for 11 minutes each morning. Sit up tall. Just have your spine straight. Let your hands just relax onto your legs. If you're in a chair, that's fine. You can put your feet flat on the ground. You can be on the ground and you can go cross-legged, however you're comfortable. But most importantly, don't feel like there's only one posture that's going to be appropriate for you. You can do whatever feels comfortable. And then close your eyes if that's comfortable for you. If not, keep your eyes open. Soften your gaze or close your eyes and begin to focus your mind towards your inhale and your exhale. Allow the thoughts to come and go. And don't worry about the fact that you think a lot. It's okay. And just set a timer for 11 minutes. And that starts to be your sadhana practice. Nothing more is needed. You will find, if you were to do just that every day for about a month or more, 11 minutes a day, and keep a journal, write a few notes down afterward, you would find a fairly profound shift had taken place in your life in just 1 month from doing just 11 minutes of conscious breathing.
I have to say, Tommy, that was the piece that just, brother, had me fall in brotherly love with you, right? That morning sadhana, that work. I know some people who say that they wake up happy and, la, 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 the first thing in the morning. That's not me. I'm not on the automatic start plan, and I'm kind of like that old crank engine. You got to just kind of, and the sadhana practice that you share regularly and that has caused me to now research on my own and find out more. And I want to find out more from you about that. But just to speak to what you're saying, this has been a practice. For the last 12 years, I have a standard solid practice of meditating every morning, of daily prayer in the morning. And this came at just the right time for me. And now I've added that, the sadhana, the spinal flexation movement, breath work in the morning drops me into a deeper meditation, an already well-established meditative practice. The breath work and the movement helps me to really go deeper.
Yes.
And it's just been such a gift. So I'm so excited for you to share this with people, because this is the thing that I think is easy to do and makes a huge difference. And you're saying over the course of a month, yes, but you also, my experience is just a few breaths, we feel the difference, right away.
It's immediate, and it's the game changer. It's the missing pillar of health. It's the missing pillar of transformation. The way I put it to people is, I can't have the health that I desire without conscious breath. I can't have the transformation and the recovery that I desire without conscious breath. I can't go as far as I could go in this life without conscious breath. And I can't have the life that I desire without conscious breath. I just can't put it any more plainly than that.
How did you come, in the course of some of your morning videos that I watch, you mentioned studying in the Himalayas or being in the Himalayas. How did you come into this? Tell us about how you found this practice and kind of your study. I'm really interested to know your journey on that.
So I would ask everybody to think about pains that they've experienced in their body, physical pain. And there'll be a group of people, maybe a very large group of people in our audience, meaning the human race, who have experienced chronic physical pain, meaning physical pain that stuck around for quite some time. And for many of that group, the physical pain that you might have felt was situated or located in your lower spine. So a lot of people understand back pain, lower back pain. Seems to be a very it's an epidemic, right? Lower back pain. And so I was no different, except my back pain was severe. So severe that the things that I love about life were temporarily removed from me. Movement, dance, sports, athletics, kinetic. Like I live a very kinetic existence, and I love that. So for me to have severe chronic lower back pain was kind of the end, it's like the end of my life as I knew it. And in seeking healing and trying to find a way out of that, my mantra always was, at that time, this is 20 years ago, was there must be somebody who knows how to fix me. And there, you already know the punchline here. You can only fix yourself, but you can have guides that guide you in setting circumstances, laying the garden for healing to take place within the body. And then there's the God part of this, the spiritual part of this, where there's a heart beating in my chest, and I'm not responsible for that.
Right.
I'm not thinking about it. I'm not, to my knowledge, empowering that. Like something else is in charge of that. I need to tap into that something else that's also in charge of the healing of this body, the healing of society, the healing of the world. And there's a play going on here, and I need to tap into it. So I found a teacher, my life teacher, Guru Prem, who taught me how to breathe. And the way he put it to me was, he said, Tommy, I know how you're going to die. That's what he said.
Good way to start.
First time I met him, I can see how you're going to die. And I said, okay, you have my attention. How am I going to die? And he said, on an exhale. And I started to think about that. And I went through a bunch of death scenarios in my mind, and I was like, yes, that's true. I'm going to die on an exhale. And he said, and you came in on an inhale, just like everybody else. And he said, the distance between that first inhale and that last exhale, that's your life. And from this moment forward, the extent to which you pay attention to your breath will be the extent to which you heal. And it will determine how far you can go in this life. Now, we could spend an hour just unpacking that statement. And I wrote about this whole experience, Recovery 2.0, and it changed my life forever. He taught me how to breathe. He taught me breath technique. He taught me kriya, movements in the body, postures that would go along with these breaths that would bring about a formidable transformation from darkness into light, from stuckness to unstuckness. And he would unlock for me the healing potential of this body. And I healed. I healed in collaboration with the universe. I healed in collaboration with all the powers that be. I aligned myself. I learned what I needed to learn, and I was able to move forward out of my limbo. And I was able to reach this place of freedom. He also painted for me a new vision of what would be possible in a life beyond addiction. So that's where it began for me about 20 years ago with the breath. And I understood, thankfully to this teacher, I understood the depth of healing that would be possible for somebody. And then I would be so fortunate to experience the depth of that healing myself. So it was not just a theory any longer, but now it became knowledge. And then later it became wisdom when I could teach this to others for a while. So tonight, for example, in Recovery 2.0 in our membership, I'm doing a 60-minute breath series. And it's deep, it's deep, deep, deep. And so people who are, coming to that presentation tonight, it's going to be experiential. And that's just, to me, it's once you have this experience, you can't ever, 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 ever go back, because now you know.
True.
And then different breaths for different reasons, different techniques. It's a universe of learning.
Yes.
To just say one final thing on this, the study that I've done in India, in Rishikesh, with one of my dear teachers over there, Anand Mehrotra from Sattva, and our dear teachers, Swamiji, he's right behind me in this book right here. You see over here, that's Swamiji, and Sadhviji, and these wonderful teachers who also speak about love, connection, and breath. And many, many, many yoga teachers along the way. All these people have been positive influences on me and countless others, and they've helped us to heal. Now we go on and we take those lessons and we help others to heal. That's the way. And so there's this beautiful chain, of unfolding teaching as we go forward, and we are helped, and then we help. We heal, and then we help others to heal. And that seems to be the key to the kingdom, really.
Indeed. I want to respond. One thing just came up as you're sharing, and then I want to give a little shout out to all the folks that have commented. And then I have another question for you. Thank you so much. My mother had a favorite quote of Pericles. Pericles was the Athenian statesman, 300 something BC. And it seemed to speak exactly to this lineage of teaching that you were talking about. And he said, what we are, we owe to those who came before us. What we become, we owe to ourselves. And I think that speaks to this, acknowledgement of those teachers that bring us forward, as you say, from darkness into light. And then our obligation to continue that teaching, to share that, to circulate, right? To circulate that knowledge. I want to just say, Suzanne, thank you always for joining us, and Mia and Tammy, Colette. And there was a comment here. Nushin, welcome back. Great to see you. And someone said, Dorota asked, why 11 minutes? And hi, Dorota. Why 11 minutes? And then someone else, yes. So let's ask that question. Why 11 minutes?
Sure. So I'm going to give you my answer. 11 minutes is enough time for you to truly begin to settle. Some people say 3 minutes. And for me, that's not been my experience. Some people have said 7 minutes. And for me, that's not been my experience. 11 minutes. Could you do it in 10? Sure. Could you do it in 12? Sure. I like the number 11. It's a powerful number.
Yes.
And I like that it's more than 10. So what I'm doing is I'm working my way into more. So what I mean by that is, if life gets in the way of yoga, but you love yoga, or you feel love in the state of yoga, then you will make yoga your life. And it doesn't mean that you're on a mat 24 hours a day. It doesn't mean you're sitting in meditation. It's just that there's never anything that isn't yoga. Like this conversation right now is yoga. All of us together in circle as we are right here. Yes, I get that there's a digital interface between us, but on the most pure energetic level, do you really think it makes a difference? Yes. Would I like to be in a room with you and for us all to be able to give each other a hug? Absolutely. And those times will come again. But for right now, on an energetic level, we sit in the state of yoga right here together by virtue of the fact that we're paying attention to this moment. That's it. So everything becomes yoga. The way you eat your food, the prayers that you offer, the practices that you do, sure. The conversations that you have, the mistakes that you make, the apologies for those mistakes, cleaning up wreckage. All of those things are yoga. Of course, doing postures, getting on a mat and stretching the body and going through our purification, as we spoke about at the beginning, how important that is every day. That's yoga too. But there's a switch that takes place where I used to say, wow, like my yoga is getting in the way of life. So I just made life yoga.
This is something that my teacher said. Michael Beckwith is who I have been studying with for the last 12 years.
Big shout out, Reverend Michael.
Yes.
Love you so. Love you so.
Indeed. I remember hearing him say a long time ago that, you begin by trying to fit your practice into life, and eventually your life fits into your practice, which is, I think, what you were just talking about.
Exactly.
And I'd love to go a little bit deeper into this. I mean, basically, as you've shared, it's about bringing awareness to everything. I mean, Buddha isn't some guy who lived 2,500 years ago or whatever and is smarter than you and I'll ever be. Buddha is awakened consciousness, right? It is the awareness. So yoga is bringing awareness of our oneness, lifting ourselves above confusion each moment as we can. And of course, we're going to get pulled off course. And we come back, we just keep coming back. And I'd like to go a little further into the mind-body connection with the breath and the movement around addiction and compulsive behavior specifically.
Yes.
So can you share in your experience, this wealth of experience in many, many people that you've walked the path of recovery with? Can you share, or what is it that you observe as the mind becomes like with addiction, there's got to be, or compulsive behavior of any sort, whether it's making your coffee in the morning or, drug addiction, there's something there, the body is looking for a chemical reaction from the mind, and it sort of calls forth this reaction. And then the mind, that connection between the mind and the body, the physical yearning for something. And how this breath work, how this movement helps to pull the mind out of the body, so there's not this automatic compulsive behavior. Does that make sense?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
That makes a lot of sense. That's the name of the game, really. So first I want to say, the complexity of the human body, it actually can't fully be grasped.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll just start there. This brain that we have, the way it operates through electrical signal and impulse, electromagnetic fields. We're talking about chemistry, endocrine system, talking about the nervous system, talking about microbes, the microbiome, we're talking about viruses, the biome of this body. We're talking about digestive system, reproductive system, circulatory system, respiratory system. All of this working together in a harmony that allows us just to show up and be able to think, be able to live and experience the universe as we can experience it uniquely as each of us as individuals. Wow. I mean, it's so, what a trip.
Yes.
So the reason I lead with that is to say yoga, the physical practice of yoga and the practice of breath work, pranayama, that Sanskrit word meaning control of breath, that practice operates on every system that I just named. It has a positive effect on every molecule, every atom. It works on the collaboration taking place between systems of the body, communities of bacteria and cells and molecules and processes that are going on, and yoga helps all of it. You have to do it correctly, respectfully, guided by someone who understands it, starting slow, never pushing. It's not about pushing. Mm-hmm. It's about showing up and being with what is. And as my teacher would say, eventually we will be invited into greater flexibility. We get invited there. You don't go there because you want to. You have to be invited. And to do that is a process. But as JJ said here just a minute ago, it's a process that has immediate positive benefits. 90 minutes, 60 minutes, 30 minutes of yoga, and you have altered your consciousness, you have altered your emotional state, you have changed the chemistry of your body without question. There's no way you can't not. So if you really understand this complex machine and how it operates, and the deeper I understand, the less I understand. But the more I realize what's taking place when I get onto a mat, which I'm going to get on as soon as we are done here together. Yeah. Because I want to alter and up-level my energetic, physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual reality. And I now, like you, hopefully like you, I have an understanding that I'm in the driver's seat in that way. I have free will. I can make a choice to up level, or I can make choices to down level. And today, I've seen that power that I can tap into, which allows me that freedom of choice and allows me to make a decision for myself, which is going to change my day and my life for the better. Every single person has this ability, but we may be separated from understanding that truth. And we may not be in the habit of showing ourselves just how powerful we can be if we align with the power around us. Does that make sense for you, JJ?
Yes. This conscious choosing, and it's actually the perfect segue into the next question that I have. Because I got a call from a friend this morning who just called me for prayer, crying on his way to work, and struggling with addiction. And I know he's been struggling for years. In fact, I thought he was on the other side of this because it had been so many years. And I hadn't heard from him in a while. He had moved to the East Coast, and he called this morning and just said, I can't do this anymore. I've been that old story that we've heard, right? The shame and the guilt and the regret of again falling, and I want to stop so bad and I can't, and all that whole complex. And it speaks directly to what you were saying, the sort of, I have free will. I can choose to either go high or go low. And my own path of moving through my addictions and compulsive behaviors has been wasting no time in self-recrimination when I do fall, because that downward spiral of shame and guilt has never been productive. But I'd love to know, Tommy, while I have prayer as a tool in my gig bag, and I know that the consciousness that heals is the consciousness that sees wholeness no matter what the appearance is. And I can hold the space for my brother who's calling and asking for help. I still felt helpless in the face of addiction, because I know this is a very specialized area. I know the spiritual principle, and I know the truth, and I know that it might be 7 days, 7 years, 7 weeks, 7 lifetimes. He's going to find union. he will be whole, complete, and perfect, as he
Mm.
already is, struggling to become that which he already is.
Mm.
I guess I'm asking you a little bit of, if you were on the phone, if you got that call, how would you move through that call and with the sort of triage and then the follow-up
Yeah.
treatment?
Yeah. So this is really at the core of where parents are with their kids, or any loved one who knows somebody that's struggling, in this way. So there are many different ways to approach a person, and wordsmithing and tone and delivery are so important. The first thing is the core understanding is love.
Hmm.
So I'm not angry with this person, or I may be angry with this person, but that's not what's going on here. There's a higher thing going on here, and that's love. And that's compassion, meaning to understand the suffering of another.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's, strategy. What do we actually do here?
Yeah.
So what I typically do is I hear the story, basically. I try not to let a person with their story, because we all know, and they will come to know, that story ultimately is not true.
Mm-hmm.
But that's not to say that it's not important that the story be told. We just don't want them to cement the story into reality any more than it already is. So we want to get out of that story, and we want to come into the now and say, okay, I know that you're expressing shame and guilt and sadness and horror and worry and anxiety. I know that you feel out of control. Everyone who experiences addiction feels that. Why can't I stop? Why don't I stop? There's a feeling of something's in control here, and it isn't me. I feel as if I am possessed, because I understand that personally, because I've been there. I can that eloquently and authentically. So we get on the same page. And then I just bring the reality to bear. If you can go to bed tonight, this night, without having used drugs or alcohol, that would be an unbelievable victory. No matter what else happened in your life today, if you could simply lay your head down on the pillow tonight and know, okay, today I didn't use drugs and alcohol, or whatever the addiction is. I didn't act out in that addictive way. That's an unbelievable victory. So we want to work on that, because what do we know? We know this person is intoxicated. We know they're not thinking clearly. We know they're not in their power, in their confidence. They haven't yet proven to themselves that they can do it. They doubt themselves tremendously. So the next thing is, okay, I say, can you handle that concept? Yes, but I don't know how to do that. I don't know how to get through this day. Say, okay, let's move into practices for the day today. So here are 3 things that you can do right now. Let's set you up. Number 1, get to a meeting of other people who are in recovery, dealing with the kinds of feelings and the kind of things you're dealing with. I can set you up with Recovery 2.0 meetings, Alcoholics Anonymous meetings, Narcotics Anonymous meetings, Al-Anon, CODA meetings, another 1,000 kinds of meetings. There's opportunities everywhere, every hour of the day and night, everywhere in the world, online and offline. Mm-hmm. The first thing is to get out of the isolation and the shame of it. I'm alone in this. I'm alone. We got to get out of that. It also helps you pass time. So that's the thing, is get to a meeting, get around other people. Okay. Let's just assume the person is willing and they're willing to do that. Okay, so you can start with that. The second thing is I need you to eat something. I need you to drink some water. And to do it even if you don't want to do it. Because this person is already imbalanced, and to have blood sugar be an issue in the middle of all this is a major league problem and a trigger that people don't mention it enough. So you have to eat something. People who are struggling with alcoholism, who stop drinking, what is their problem going to be? Sugar craving. Because alcohol breaks down into sugar, and they are all of a sudden, they're not giving their body the sugar. They're going to need it. Have a nice big piece of pie. You know, I know that sounds crazy to people because you're going to think, oh my God, you're going to keep somebody addicted on sugar. No, no, no. We're talking about one day. We're talking about getting somebody through a day.
Yeah.
Who can't imagine putting their head on a pillow tonight without using alcohol or drugs. So eat a meal, eat a healthy meal, drink water. And if you need something sweet, okay, give yourself a break. And then the third thing is accountability, like immediate accountability. You have to text me. If you get into trouble emotionally, you get caught up in negativity, you get caught up in anxiety, you're in craving and you think you're going to use, text me, call me, or someone like me. It has to be that personal because we're alone otherwise. And we've been alone. And we've been alone with our addiction, and we've been alone with our mind, and it's a terrible place to be. But all of a sudden, you have somebody to report to. It really, really changes the dynamic. And I've seen many, many thousands of people get sober in exactly this way.
The simplicity and elegance of what you said really resonated with me, and I can see, I'm so grateful I asked that question, as simple-minded as it was. It's such a great, because of your immense experience in walking this path with so many, that experience has wrought clarity and simplicity, which is what it's always about. First, can you imagine, first love is the foundation. I just want to repeat the 3 steps, right? Love is the foundation. And then can we just get through the day? Can you imagine just tonight, just for today?
Yeah.
And then some practices to help you get through that. Going to a meeting, eating, hydrating, and accountability.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
And then, people get to 3 days and they can't believe it. And I point out, like, you've been sober for 3 days now. If you could do that time if you desired, but it would have to be one day at a time. It's only ever going to be for today. Now, that brings up questions for people, but we can deal with the questions around that for another time.
Sure.
How do I plan for the future if I'm living one day at a time? What am I supposed to do to plan anything ever if I'm always living one day at a time? These are fair questions, but they bring up the conundrum of time, which is one of the biggest issues in addiction. So when we break through the conundrum of time, we're able to begin to draw back our power into the present moment, where previously with the conundrum of time, it seems impossible. It's impossible to do. That's for another time.
Yeah. I'm so, Tommy, I'm so grateful for this time. I'm so grateful for who you are in the world. I'm so grateful that I happened upon you, and that we can continue the intersections and crossroads and unfoldings of this beautiful practice. And thank you for the wisdom that you shared. People, again, Recovery 2.0 is a beautiful platform, and as much as there's a lot of questions around ayahuasca as a means of recovering from addiction or helping. And I know there's things on both sides, but we've also seen at Rhythmia such tremendous healing around that as well. So many options for us to take, whatever resonates with us. so many paths, and yet one outcome always. Oneness with God. So Tommy, God bless you. Thank you so much. And to all the folks listening, just knowing Tommy and that each one is guided by an infinite intelligence, guarded by an infinite love, and sourced by a power that is inexhaustible and knows no beginning and no end. And I'm knowing, as the Recovery 2.0 prayer is so beautifully and simply put as well, just that that we stand in this presence knowing that we're in the right places with the right people doing the right things. Thank you, Tommy.
Thank you so much, JJ. Take care. Much love.
Bless you. Much love to you. Have a beautiful day. Thank you, everyone. Talk to you soon.